Good evening everyone and welcome to Hitbullseye. The topic that I'm going to discuss with you today will be parajumbles or sentence rearrangement question. One of the most tricky types, one of the most scoring type, and one of the type of question that you will see in almost all the MBA entrance exam. So call it parajumbles or sentence rearrangement, it is the same thing. And if we discuss what these questions are, you can say 4 to 5 to 6 sentences will be given to you, put in a random order or in a in a particular order, you can say, and you have to arrange them in the right order. So you can say that these sentences are picked from a paragraph and they've been jumbled over there. You have to read all the sentences, identify the story behind it, decode the sequence of the events, the thought process of the author, thinking just like him. You have to arrange them in a particular order. Now, why did I say that sentence rearrangement questions are tricky is that in your CAT exam, you don't get any options for these. So, guessing the opening sentence or the closing sentence or making some of the pair will still relatively be easy, but then when there are no options available there, it can get a little tricky. But you definitely get 3 questions in the CAT exam which has no negative marking, because these are known as theta questions, type and typable answers, wherein you will be given a box and you can type your answer in the box. So that is the reason it has no negative marking. So if you can master this type of question, trust me, you will be able to score your 4 to 5 questions in all the MBA entrance exam, not just the CAT exam. So without any further ado, let's begin with the lecture and let us see what can be the tricks or techniques to do these questions. So the technique that we usually use for these questions is STOP AC technique. So the acronym STOP AC stands for, first thing that you should do, you should be guessing the opening sentence of that parajumble questions. For example, any sentence that has a proper noun that introduces you to the topic and which is very general in its sense. After reading that sentence, you don't feel like it should be preceded by some other sentence to complete its meaning. So that will be your opening sentence. So subject is something that the passage talks about. That subject will be introduced to you in the opening sentence itself. After the first reading of all the sentences, try to guess what the passage is talking about. That will be the subject. That common thing all the sentences are revolving around. Or you may call it the main idea also. Theme is again something more elaborate, I would say. In subject area, you simply guess this is from history, this is from anthropology, let's say this is based on science and technology, on some scientific advancement. This is simple guessing the subject area. Theme is more elaborate. In fact, theme is what I would call the main idea. What you're going to see in the passage. What are these sentences about? What is the author trying to reinforce here? If you have a keen understanding of all these things, guessing the sequence becomes relatively easy because you understand what the author is about to write about it. And in what sequence, what flow of thought will he use to write these sentences. After doing these 2 things, the next step is guessing the opening sentence, which I have already discussed. A general kind of sentence with proper noun that introduces you to the subject and the theme will be the opening sentence. So guessing the opening sentence out of the all is the most easy thing. So for example, there is a person, let's say Sailesh. Sailesh is a person, I've been writing something about him in a passage. I would use the name only in the opening sentence. Later on, I will use the correct pronouns for the same person, he, his or him. So all those sentences which do not give you any proper noun or do not introduce the idea to you, they most probably will not be the opening sentence. Look for a sentence which has a proper noun. So that will be your opening sentence, which is very general in its sense and which does not make us feel as if there should be something before it. After guessing the opening sentence, let us say it is C, right? Then you have to make certain pair. So there are some key words which tell you 2 sentences are talking about the same thing. Either the second sentence is further describing something that was already given in some other sentence, or it is presenting a contrast related to something that was already given in a sentence. So there are many clues that will help you to make pair. For example, B and D will make a pair, A and C will make a pair, something like that. So, in one go, it's difficult to guess the sequence of all the sentences, but you can simply make pairs and write them aside, right? Keep them aside. Anticipate the order after that. You now know the opening sentence. You have made some of the pairs. Try to look for the closing sentence also, which is concluding in its nature and which you feel as if is a gist of the whole passage, can be a conclusion. So after guessing it all, you will be ready with your one answer. Confirm from the options if you are given option. It is just the CAT exam which doesn't give you any option. That is the reason it becomes the most tricky in CAT exam. Otherwise, these questions are highly scoring. Even if you are this close to guessing the answer and you've just wrongly jumbled two of the sentences, you can easily tally it from the option and you'll get to know and you'll get to clarify your confusion about those two options. So with option, it's very easy. So this is how you can do the jumble or sentence rearrangement question. I've done lives before this also on this topic in a more elaborate way, I would say. So if you are someone who's watching this video for the first time, attending a live for the first time, you can watch my previous videos also for further clarity. Right, let us now straight away move to some of the question types. So let's do different types of question that can be based on sentence rearrangement or para-jumbles. So type 1 direction is rearrange the following sentences in the right order. Now, a particular passage is given to you, different sentences picked from it, put in a jumbled order. Quickly go through this and let me know which should be the opening sentence. Write down your own order and then I'll show you the options also. Read the sentences, try to guess what is it based on, and then try to guess the sequence. This is a relatively easy one, I would say. So there has been for some time growing criticism of the projection of women in these three media. Look at this now. You are given a pronoun here, these three media. How would we know which all media is he talking about? So definitely this is not going to be the opening sentence. Second is things are even worse in the films. What things? Have he already given something? Has he already told us something about those things? We first need to identify what things is he referring to. So this also cannot be the opening sentence. Reading the next one. The report that the Union Cabinet considered the draft of bill to prohibit the denigration of women photographs, advertisements and films is welcome. Now this is a very general kind of sentence. So it tells us that here some bill has been discussed which has been passed by the Union Cabinet. It is relevant only for the ads, photographs and film which degrade or denigrate the women by showing vulgar pictures, you can say. So this is what the passage is about, and this particular option gives us all the introduction related to it. So this should be the first one. Reading the last one for you. Advertisements in the print media as well as in the films and television frequently rely on feminine sex appeal to attract the attention of products or to suggest that these products make Casanovas of ordinary mortals. So can this be the second sentence? Now how to take hints from the passage. Now if you can see, I said that C is the opening sentence, right? There were three things mentioned here: photographs, advertisements and films. Yet the D option only talks about two things: advertisement and print media. And the B option, it leaves some scope for further discussion of portrayal of women in the films. So definitely this B should be the last sentence. Now we have to identify the second sentence. The second sentence will be A. There has been some time growing criticism of the projection of women in these three media. These three media is a pronoun and these are the nouns already given in the C. It means they make a pair also. Something that was talked about in the C option has further been discussed in the A option. So this is a thought extender. This becomes our second sentence. This becomes our third sentence. So the order we have is C, A, D, B. Let us see if we have some options related to it. Okay, so this one is without option. You may say like in a CAT exam. So the order that I told you should be C, A, D and B. Last sentence is B because films are something that was not discussed at length. The passage is further going to discuss about it. He has laid a base for this thing by talking this, that case is even worse in the films. Advertisement and print media he's already discussed. I hope this particular question is clear to everyone. Let us move on to the second one now. Go through this one, and if you can see, this is the type 2 in which opening sentence and the closing sentence will be given to you. Look at this. The opening sentence is given, the closing sentence is given. You just have to guess the order of these 4 sentences. Now, this I would say makes our work a little more easy. If you already have the opening sentence, you may try to find out one sentence that can gel well or make a pair with the opening sentence. Same goes for the concluding sentence also. Try to make a pair with it. Let us see who's going to do this one. India's experience of industrialization is characteristic of difficulties faced by a newly independent developing country. So what idea do we get? What general idea do we get from here? That the passage is about India as a developing country, a newly independent India as a developing country in the matter of what? Industrialization. So that is the conclusion, that is the opening they have given you. In 1947, India was undoubtedly an underdeveloped country. Now here he is talking about the developing country, but now here he has talked about way back in history, 1947, when India became independent from its colonizers, and it is saying that at that point of time we were definitely underdeveloped country with one of the lowest per capita incomes in the world. Now there is something that you may follow in the sentence rearrangement question, which is known as chrono pair, that tells you about the time. So something which happened earlier would come first. It will be followed chronologically backward, I would say. For example, here they are talking about 1947, so definitely the author will first of all tell you कि 1947 में India का status क्या था, and then he will show you the progress. Now look at us today, where we are, and probably he may discuss the future prospects also. So there is a chronology in the style of writing that you have to find out and take hints from. So yes, this should be the second sentence, because the first sentence gave you a general idea that I'm going to discuss industrialization and India as a developing country. Then he showed you the picture of India in 1947. Now, today India ranks 5th in the International Committee of Nations of measured in terms of purchasing power today. So isn't there a contrast? 1945 and what the scenario is today. Clearly, this should be the third sentence, that earlier we were underdeveloped and our per capita income was the lowest in the world, but today we rank 5th only. So that's a progress. Reading it further, Indian industrialization was the result of a conscious, deliberate policy of growth by ingenious political elite. I would say the intellectual people, the creative people, ingenious people. So okay, this is a further, I can say, a description of the same thing, that how we achieved this rank, right? Reading the D1, now that we have guessed, we already have the first sentence, we have guessed the second and the third, we are left with 2. What is the best strategy you should apply? Read the last sentence, try to find out a sentence that can come before it. So last is, industrialization in India has thus been a limited success. One more example of growth without development. Okay, so we were talking about India's growth and progress. Why is the last sentence talking that we still have to achieve the milestone? We are still at a limited success. Why is he saying that we are an example of growth without the development? So it means the tone has changed now. There is tone also in a passage. The author started on an optimistic note. Then he showed you that even now we have to achieve a lot. We are still not a developed country. So obviously there should be a swift transition. to go from this positive sentence to this one where there seems to be it seems to be a little pessimistic in accordance to today's scenario. So there should be a swift transition. We have to identify that sentence which will show that transition. Even today, however, the benefits of Indian industrialization since independence have not reached the masses. The similar kind of tone, just as the fifth one's was. But this one, Indian industrialization was the result of conscious, deliberate policy, is a kind of positive sentence, which means this sentence is going to go with the first half and this will come with the last sentence. So it shows us this should be the fourth one, this should be the fifth one, and this should be the sixth one. I hope this one is clear. This is also one of the type that you may see in the exam, wherein the opening sentence is given to you, the closing is also given to you. And it becomes relatively easy to answer these questions. Moving on to the type third question. So there are these 5 sentences and you have to arrange these sentences and write the order down, and then later on they will ask you different questions. What was the fifth sentence? What was the third sentence of the passage? What is the first sentence of the passage? So they can give you questions like this also, rather than asking you the order in one go. Let us read it and identify the sequence. When she finished, her listeners were in tears. Now who is the she? Whose listeners? It has not been introduced to us. This cannot be the opening sentence. She once gave. Who is she again? Cannot be the opening sentence. She was known, not known who she is. It later turned out that she. So all these 4 sentences uses pronoun. They are not telling us who is she. The Polish actress Halina Modjeska was a very popular figure during her time. Isn't it a general kind of sentence giving us the name of the main character as if it is the starting of the passage? Anyone would, whenever someone goes on to write something, they will give you a general introduction first. This becomes our opening sentence. Now, the Polish actress Halina Modjeska was a very popular figure during her time. What should come after this? She was known for her realistic and emotional style of acting. A further extension of the same thing, general kind of sentence this also is. Why was she famous? Because she was known for her realistic and emotional style of writing. Moving further, what should be the next sentence? Yes, let us see who's going to answer this one. I am waiting for your response. Write it in the chat box. The next one should be, she once gave a dramatic. Now here we are talking about when she finished. It means she was acting, she was doing some play, or probably she was singing, something she must be doing. So before that we have to tell what she was doing. So once she gave. Now this is one anecdote of her life. 2 general sentences are done. First and second, E and C. After this we are going to discuss one case from her life. She once gave dramatic reading in her native tongue at a dinner party of people who she did not know. So what happened after that? It's a kind of a narration. It almost comes in your mind. What happened after that? So it later turned out that she had merely recited the Polish alphabets. When she finished, obviously, after this sentence, we will put the A sentence. We are talking about a dramatic reading, a recitation. So when she finished, what happened after that? Listeners were in tears. That is amazing. And the last one will be D. It later turned out that she had merely recited the Polish alphabet. So she wasn't actually reciting a case. They were simple alphabets. But the way she presented it was so, you can say, so moving that people were in tears. So this is the right sequence of this one. I hope it's clear. ECBAD. Let us write it down here and do these questions. ECBAD. Which of the following should be the first sentence after the rearrangement? It should be E. Which of the following should be the second sentence after the rearrangement? It should be C. Which of the following should be the third sentence after rearrangement? The third one is B. Which of the following should be the fifth sentence after the rearrangement? It should be D. And which of the following should be the fourth one? It should be A. So they may ask you questions like this also. I have given you 5 questions. They may simply ask you 1 or 2 on the basis of your arrangement. So which is the fourth one, which is the second one, and so on. Let us do one more question. Type 4 is you may be given 5 sentences to 6 sentences in the CAT exam without any option. Let's go through it and try to identify the right sequence. So this is the last question for today. Let us see who's going to answer this one. We have already practiced 3 of the questions. Quickly go through it and let me know the answer. Drop in your answers, everyone. Okay, just let me know which should be the opening sentence. Which one do you feel is a general kind of sentence? So that will be relatively easy to answer. 2 bags of silver or 1 crore is but a marker. Marker of what? So it's absurd. So this cannot be the opening sentence. It tells you little about the event, about the nature of transition. What is this it? We do not know that. It necessitates the storyteller who is ironically juxtaposed to the policy maker breathing reform. What is it? We do not know. Corruption demands narratives. Now this can be the opening sentence. Corruption is one discourse that always demands anecdotes. So there are 2 options which are talking about corruption. They are giving us the introduction. Which one should be the more appropriate one? We will go with one which has a broader spectrum or outlook, I would say. So E is the apt one. Corruption is one discourse. Discourse is all the written, studied or talked about material related to a topic throughout the ages. Whatever has been there, any discussion, all the debates or all the details or everything written or spoken about it. Okay, I can see there is a response which is E. Okay, Ritvik, that is absolutely right. Corruption is one discourse that always demands anecdotes. What should be the second one? Here we are talking about anecdotes. Anecdotes are those short stories, the ignored ones, the ones which are always marginalized. So they are the ones that gives you the reality, not the mainstream story. So numbers alone seem inadequate. So this should be the second sentence. So when we talk about corruption and when we talk about anecdotes, if you simply count the number, these many cases of corruption, they cannot be adequate. So what should be the third one? We are here talking about number. So if you try to find out the structure of this particular question, you can see one thing. On the one side, he's talking about corruption and numbers. On the other side, he's also talking about narration and story. Try to put them apart and try to then write the correct answer. I can see one more which is B. Okay, Ritvik is saying it should be B. What about the A one, Ritvik? 2 bags of silver or 1 crore is but a marker. Aren't we here talking about the number? So if you simply say there was a scam of this much amount, it's not enough. It's inadequate to say that. So you need to go back to see the anecdotes, to see the stories, narrate the stories. So that narration part will come later on. It should be third one. Because here we talked about numbers, we need to put a point to justify this point, to further describe this point. It should be this one. This is the third one. Now you are left with 3 options. Let me know the sequence. So now comes your point, Ritvik, B. Now we have shifted the flow of the passage, I would say. It tells you little about the event, about the nature of the transition. What tells you little about it? The number. If you simply say there was a scan of 3 crore, it's simply a number. It won't give you full details of the event. It will tell you little about the event. So here it's a contrasting pair. 3 and 4 are contrasting pairs. C. It necessitates the storyteller who is ironically juxtaposed or it should be D, corruption demands narrative. We showed that there is a shortcoming of simply going by the numbers. Then we said that they fall little or they fall short of telling you about the actual story. So then you need to say, listen, number is not enough. There should be narratives related to corruption. The cases should be discussed in detail, what all happened. So D should be the next sentence. And then comes your C point. It necessitates the storyteller who is ironically, why are we talking about storyteller? Because before this we have already said that corruption demands narrative. Narrative is storytelling. जिसे हम कहते हैं पूरा किस्सा सुनाना. For example, जो भी corruption case हुआ था उसके पीछे पूरा किस्सा क्या था. So that narrative is important. It necessitates the storyteller who is ironically juxtaposed to the policy maker breathing reform. So this should be the last sentence. I hope the sequence is clear to everyone. It should be E, F, A, B, D and C. I hope this is clear to everyone. So these were a few examples of sentence rearrangement question. Trust me, if you want to have or the edge over the other student in these questions, you need to practice a lot. Their nature is very subjective. It will be many a time that you'll scratch your head saying, why can't this be the second sentence? Why can't this be the third sentence? Every time you go about these questions, think about them very calmly. Even if, let's say, you have wrongly jumbled two of the sentences, look for the explanation, look for the justification of that explanation by the person who has written the answer. Read the sentences again, convince yourself for that particular order. Because this is someone else's writing. We have to get into his shoes and then think about the passage in a similar fashion. So yes, you cannot put in your subjectivity in between for these questions. It's just that practice is going to help you with these questions. So that is all for today. We may discuss sentence completion questions in the next class. If you have any doubt or if you have any suggestion, you may put it in the chat box and we can take up in the next live. Thank you everyone, and very good Ritwik, you were very close to the right answers.